Welcome, everyone. It is Cannabis News. I'm your host, Joe Klare. It's August 28th, 2019. The show, as always, is presented to you by the Marijuana Times. MarijuanaTimes.org. That's where you can find us. A bunch of great articles there, a lot of great writers, social media links, and more. A lot of great stuff you can find. MarijuanaTimes.org. Today, talking about a series of marijuana grower robberies in Washington and what part the government had to play in that. Also, Sara Netanyahu, wife of Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, speaks out about medical cannabis, and the California Assembly has okayed medical marijuana on school grounds. Talk about all that. Coming up, but first, of course, Cannabis News is brought to you by Natureside, nature-side.com, and they are organic, all-natural pesticides, grow safe and poison-free. Don't use banned pesticides in the state that you're growing in. Be regulatory compliant so that you can keep your license to grow. Even if you're not growing cannabis, don't put harmful chemicals on things that people are going to be ingesting. That's awful. Don't do that. What's the alternative? Well, if you've been paying attention, you know the alternative is Natureside, nature-side.com. Organic, all-natural pesticides, proud sponsor of Cannabis News. Thank you, Natureside. The first story by yours truly at marijuanatimes.org is the government in Washington state causing crime under legalization. Basically, this article is based on something that was written and published in Politico magazine. It's a very long story about a series of robberies over the last couple of years of marijuana growers in the Seattle area. Conjecture among the growers of what was happening. How did these criminals know just when to strike, when the most amount of ready to sell, ready to purchase marijuana was available right after the harvest or whatever. And the kind of the theory, the consensus coalesced around the fact that even though most states, whether it's recreational or medical marijuana, they make you follow a lot of regulations and the seed to sale and the tracking and accounting for all the marijuana you grow, especially if you're a marijuana grower, a licensed one. And apparently in Washington state, they're a little more zealous with these regulations, and in an effort to be more transparent, they publish a lot of information online that growers can then, or robbers rather, can then use to know just when to hit growers. They, for instance, they didn't go after the big growers; they went for the smaller growers with less security. They knew just when marijuana had just been harvested, when they had dried flower or whatever. They were able to bypass a lot of stuff and go and grab that. They had a lot of information they shouldn't have had. And as I pointed out in the article, when it comes to the government, I've said it many times, the worst thing about legalization, the only drawback really to legalization, is that the government is involved, it is regulating, it is implementing legalization, which is going to cause a lot of problems. But this is an extreme. Even when it comes to government incompetence, you expect red tape, bureaucracy, delays, things of that nature. But actively giving criminals information that would cause your business to be robbed seems like a bit much. Like it back off a little bit. We'll take the regular everyday incompetence and the red tape and the delays. But actively harming businesses in your state, well, that's unhelpful in the extreme. This next story is from jpost.com. Sara Netanyahu says medical cannabis is blessed. There are really people who need cannabis, Sara Netanyahu said. Now, I don't know anything about Israeli politics. I don't know how beloved and or hated or a mixture of the two Sara Netanyahu is in that region. But I will say this, that if you think of prohibition as a big wall, this is an analogy I often use, and we're trying to tear down that wall. Some of us are throwing little bricks, some of us are throwing little rocks, some of us are just throwing sticks, making no difference whatsoever. Some of us are throwing huge boulders, some of us have catapults, the bigger celebrity types, people with more influence. Anyone who has influence anywhere in a positive way, and I assume Sara Netanyahu has positive influence on at least some people. She was on this show, for instance. Anything that she can say positive about cannabis, anyone like that can say positive about cannabis moves the needle forward a little bit. It takes a little bit of the chunk out of the wall. How big of the chunk? I don't know. Like I said, I don't know much about Sara Netanyahu. I don't know how big of a chunk her saying this can take out of the wall of prohibition, but it's all helpful. Whether it's a small rock, a big rock, whatever. Something else that is very bad for walls and will make them crumble. That's not a rock that I can't think of right now. I was going to say boulder, but it's a big rock, isn't it? Yes. Anyway, this story centers around the wife of Israel's Prime Minister, Sara Netanyahu, addressed the issue of medical cannabis, calling the plant blessed in a video posted in the Facebook group We Love Sara Netanyahu. In the 9-minute video, Mrs. Netanyahu sat down to cook vegan Moroccan meatballs with Tal Gilboa, the Prime Minister's new advisor on animal affairs. During the conversation, Gilboa, whilst holding some parsley, asked, "How about cannabis? Cannabis is a very important thing for sick people, for those who are in pain." Netanyahu responded, "There are really people who need cannabis, and medical cannabis is something they are blessed with. I just hope that as many people as possible can get it." Well, I absolutely agree with that. As many people who can get marijuana for medical reasons, for whatever reason, they should. And again, I don't know much about Sara Netanyahu, but I got to think that this will at least cause some people to kind of to rethink the idea of cannabis legalization and how cannabis can help people if they haven't so far, especially in the Israel area. I assume that she's at the very least incredibly well known in Israel, I would assume. This last story from mercurynews.com. California Assembly okays medical marijuana on K through 12 campuses. California schools may soon allow parents to administer medical marijuana to their children on K through 12 campuses in California. California Assembly approved a bill that lets school boards decide whether parents can administer medical marijuana on school campuses. It would allow the use of marijuana in non-smoking forms. Current law prevents marijuana on school campuses, meaning children who use medical cannabis to treat seizures have to go off campus to get their medication. Supporters of the bill say that it's a dangerous and onerous requirement. Opponents worry about allowing the drug on campus and question whether medical marijuana regulations for children are strong enough. They worry about medical marijuana being on campus. They're worried about whether regulations for children are strong enough. Well, their parents, in conjunction with their doctors, have decided they need medical marijuana. I don't know what other standard they're supposed to meet. What other standard for children is there besides their parents and their doctor both agree on a medical treatment? I think that pretty much that seals up all the requirements. I don't know. Again, it's very gray areas. Apparently there's a larger, more important body of strangers that needs to make these decisions above the parent-doctor relationship. There's a whole group of strangers that need to sign off, and some of them are worried that this is too much, so they really don't want to sign off on this. As I've said many times, I don't know why we're so enamored with what strangers think of our decisions and giving them power over our decisions. It's a bad thing. It's not helping. It's not helping. I'm sorry. If you think it is, it's not. Giving strangers the ability to regulate these questions when everybody who needs to chime in has already chimed in. I mean, when it comes to the school, the parents, the doctor, and the school, if they all agree that medical marijuana is fine, I don't see why anybody else needs to be brought into it. But they will be. Strangers, lots of strangers need your opinions, your votes. Just tell us what to do. We're flailing here in life. Please direct us. I, for one, I'm fine. I got it handled. Thanks, everybody, for checking out Cannabis News. We're here 5 days a week. Search us, The Marijuana Times, on YouTube and Vimeo. Also, Apple Podcasts if you want the audio version of the show. Natureside.com is our awesome sponsor. Nature-side.com. And their organic, all-natural pesticides. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you for watching and listening today. Keep spreading the truth about cannabis with this show, and we'll see you next time right here on Cannabis News.